first of all, I want to thank you for taking time out of your evening to be here with us. And I promise you, we're going to try to be done in an hour. We'll stay here as long as possible to continue to answer questions at the end, but we're going to try to make sure that we have no more than a 1 hour presentation and Q&A discussions. So a couple things before we get started. You should have a handout at the table. This is some Q&A that you might want to grab, so you have that in front of you. And also there are these handouts. And this is really important because we will have, towards the end, we're going to have Q&A. And that opportunity for you to write down the question. This gives us the opportunity to have the question. We'll collect them. We'll answer them. Chris and I will answer those together for all of you. And then we also keep these to be able to put on our Q&A on our website. So we try to be as transparent as possible. What questions come up here end up on our website after the fact. So that's why we ask you to make sure to write those down. And then we might possibly ask questions out loud, and we'll try to gather those down. But this, having them written down is really, really helpful. I think all of you know me. I started off and didn't say that, but I'm Wendy. I've got the great pleasure to serve as the president of the school board and have been around for our first opportunity for going out for a bond, and also hopefully our last time going out for a bond when we have this successful. But while we're here tonight, what's brought us here is that in 2021, when we went out for the bond, we had really great turnout. We just didn't make it to that 60% majority of the vote. And what we heard at that time from our constituents and from the community, they wanted to make sure that we continued to look at what we can do. We have a good school, but what can we do better for students? So what we've done as a board, and Ron Henseth is with us tonight as well, who's been on the board with me, and Mr. Eink and Chris Smith as our board secretary and our financial guru. We have been planning since 2021 on what can we do to be the most cost effective, making sure that we're addressing what are we doing with our existing school building, what have we done with our dollars and the tax rate to make sure that we're keeping it down, so that we go back out for a bond, what would that look like? So it might seem like we've been a little radio silent since 2021, but we've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes. And so this time when we're going out for a bond, we are looking at remodeling our existing and adding on to our existing footprint and making sure that we're continuing to use the existing auditorium that's there, continuing to use the existing gym that's there, and also continuing to use some of the 1990 edition that is up there as well. What we're looking at is in 1930, voters came together and voted to get Southwind. In 1960, they looked at an expansion to do what's best for students. In 1990, they looked at expansion to do for best for students, and we're at 30 years again, looking at what can we do for best for students. So we're looking at taking off the 1930. So why is the why? Why are we doing this? Well, first of all, we want to make sure that we have a modern school for our students, looking at that it has the infrastructure and the technology across the whole school, not 3/4 of the school district. And I'm here to tell you that we've done a very good job, because someone said, well, haven't you maintained your facility? Absolutely we have. But a 1930 facility and being able to keep up the technology and the heating and the ventilation system, those are things we're gonna have to change no matter what, folks. We're gonna have to spend some significant money on the current school facility we're at. We have, though. We've continued to put in money into the facility, making sure that we're taking care of it on an ongoing basis. That's why we haven't been able to save we saved a little over $2 million, but we didn't stop spending money on our current school infrastructure. Continuing to make sure that we have the best facilities possible in Austin and continue to put as many dollars that we can to have systems like our network that we can move into a new facility if we move. So we've been very strategic and very smart of how we've been spending the dollars and also saving them. Another thing that we're looking at is from the education system, looking at having academic programming, but also career programming. So looking at how we can have a facility to have some more ag programming, as well as looking at what we're doing for all of our arts, language, science, all of the STEM areas as well. We're looking at also making sure that we have collaboration spaces, which is very different. Years ago, you didn't have that. You came to school, you sat in a row, and you were spoken to. Now it's all about teamwork and collaboration, and how you're learning, and how you're learning in pods, and how you're doing presentations, and being able to have that ability to have that in our current structure is pretty difficult because we just don't have the space. We also have other demands of what is expected from us from the state and federal for education and how we're using our existing space as well. So that's why we can't continue to do everything that we want to be able to do for students in that existing space. We also are looking at safety concerns. We can't ever be safe enough for students. They deserve that from us. So we're really looking at how you can look all the ways down the hall, making it structured, making sure that there's not so many different in and out points within the facility. It's definitely a safety risk, and we've done the best that we can to mitigate that, but we want to really look at how we can look at that as a safety structure as well for our students. And we're looking at ways that we can open up the facility, open up to the community, and having additional space for activities, health activities. It is so important to have, your gym is one of your most used classrooms in any school district, across the nation. Because there's not only is it a place for pep rallies and larger speakers and PE and competition, it's really all of that and more. And so it's really looking at how we can use our existing facility that we have and also have it a way that students aren't coming in at 6 o'clock in the morning to have practices or having practices late at night at 8 o'clock, because we have one gym for boys and girls. And then also having one gym being shared with basketball, volleyball, track, and baseball. It's a different world. You're doing multiple sports at one time, and how can we make sure that we have the infrastructure to best utilize that for our students and to assure that they're getting home to their families. And when we're having quad basketball games versus instead of being there till 10 o'clock at night, getting kids home sooner. So those are all things that we're looking at, and having one lunch period instead of 4 lunch periods. There's so many more reasons why this is so important. So I just share those at the top of my mind of why it's so important and why we continue to work so hard to make an opportunity where we're coming out for a bond at $13 million, being very cost effective, looking at how we're being mindful of the taxpayers of Southwind, and how we can have taxpayers across the state who come into Winneshiek County to help fund our school infrastructure. So without further ado about the why, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Eink to go a little bit more into the presentation.
Hello everybody, my name is Chris Eink. I'm the superintendent of South Winneshiek Schools. I'm going to kind of go through the presentation pretty quick because Wendy did an eloquent job of hitting a lot of the key points. November 4th, 2025, that's going to be the bond referendum, the vote. I think it's important to note the vision of South Winneshiek Schools. So the vision of the South Winneshiek School District with shared responsibility of home and community is to provide the best environment, develop skills needed to be responsible, lifelong learners within the school and community. The why, Wendy did a great job explaining that. In 1930, part 30 is part of the high schools approaching 100 years old. We've got a boiler system, HVAC, that's steam, which is really outdated. It's costly to maintain and keep up. So the school board proposes renovating and expanding our existing high school, all right? Like Wendy talked about, it provide 2 major academic areas. We want to obviously enhance the facilities, greater safety, security, better energy efficiency. But the bottom line, the project improves the learning environment, safety, and career readiness for Southwind students. there's gonna be a new main entrance. We'll get into that in a little bit when Mr. Williams talks about the floor plan. Right now, Wendy alluded to that, we have like 17 different entry points, exit points. We don't really have a nice main entrance that flows into a commons area that we can use for events, not only the school, but the community as well. So this would be the main entrance from the north view of the high school. If you were standing on the street looking, this would be where the old building is. This would be the new main entrance. Again, I talked about 2 academic areas. One will be dedicated to science, technology, engineering, agriculture, business, art, mathematics, STEAM as part of the renovation, and the current or the newer part of the high school, all right? And the second area will be located in the new building and focused on language arts and social studies. These classrooms will be situated above the commons cafeteria area alongside a modern library and learning center to foster that collaboration that Wendy had mentioned. All right, this is a view from the northwest. So this is the existing newest part of the building. Actually, this part here would have been the part of the 90s renovation, bond referendum. This is our current gym up here. Down here is our weight room. That's going to be actually divided into 2, and we're going to have a new science and agriculture area over there. This is a northeast view looking at the new building. So this is the main entrance. We talked about that before. This would be new classrooms up here. This would be the new gym, new weight room, new wrestling room, new weight room, and then new office space here. So along with the competition gym, there'll also be a walking track, new locker rooms, new weight room, new wrestling room, featuring 2 full-size mats. I think it's important to note that we have a very strong wrestling program. Girls wrestling began a couple years ago, and we have a really, really strong girls wrestling program. Right now, we're having to actually rent space from the Catholic Church as another area for our wrestling program, and then they flip-flop. So it'd be really nice to have those facilities within our school. The new facility will incorporate a high-efficiency HVAC system, modern building materials to ensure long-term energy savings. Southland will retain and continue, and this is important, to use the newest sections of the existing high school, including the auditorium, the music room, the current gym locker rooms, elevator, existing wrestling room, classrooms, which are located under the current gym, and then the district office. All right, this would be a southeast view of the new building. This would be the new gym right here. This would be a southwest view. So this is our existing auditorium right here. This is where we enter, the students enter the high school currently. That's the current gym. This would be the new gym right here, or the new part of the building. One ballot question, okay? So back in 2021, we had to have 2 ballot questions because we needed the authority to go out for the full 405. We weren't going to go out for the full 405 levy, but we need the authority to do that. This time we don't. We only need the 270. Therefore, there's only 1 question on the ballot. 1 question on the ballot. And basically what that's asking is for the public to give the board of directors of South Winneshiek Community School, all right, the authorization to contract indebtedness and issue general obligation bonds and the amount not to exceed $13 million. Okay? 1 question. So before proposing the current solution, the board and district leaders sought feedback from our community and made drastic changes to the 21 proposal. As a result, we listened to the community, which led to an updated project scope that stays within our current footprint with a reduced ask from voters. So if you remember, in 21, we were asking for 19.1 million. This time we're asking for 13, okay? 19.1, this time 13 million. To prepare for this project, the board proactively lowered the tax rate from $12.51 per thousand assessed property value in 21 to now this year being $12.33, okay? We also saved over $2 million in cash reserves to contribute to the proposed project. We take seriously our obligation to protect local property taxpayers, including owners of agricultural land in our community. Okay, so total project cost, $23,446,705. It's a lot of money. The bond referendum request, $13 million. Okay? This is 6.1 million less than the 21 bond request of 19.1. The remaining cost, because I'm sure you're doing the math, you're like, where's the other 10.5 million coming from? Is going to be used from our sales tax, or SAVE, 1 cent penny money, okay? The floating fiscal plant equipment levy, the PEBBLE, and over $2 million in cash reserves, all right? So in FY26, this fiscal year, the district will request authority to levy a tax increase not to exceed $270 per thousand taxable valuation. The current tax rate is $12.33. The proposed bond would increase it to $15.03. $15.03, so go from $12.33 to $15.03. A person's home with an assessed value of $250,000 will have an approximate tax change of $307.07 per year, or $25.59 a month. So interesting facts, or I find it interesting. So fiscal year 2012, which was the final year of the 1990s bond referendum, the tax rate was $14.94. $14.94 back in 2012. FY21, the tax rate was $12.51. The proposed $19.1 million bond referendum would have increased the tax rate to $14.99. This year, FY26, tax rate's $12.33. That's set in stone. The proposed $13 million bond referendum will increase the tax rate to $15.03. This is just 9 cents more than the 2012 rate. So back in 2012, $14.94. What our proposal is, $15.03. 9 cents more, and 4 cents more than the projected rate in 2021. So I think this is a very good visual, because public school financing is complicated, to say the least, all right? And the way I like to look at it is we have different silos of money. There's different silos. And we can only use those silos for very specific things, okay? Now, if you look up here, first of all, in the highlighted yellow, the state average school district property tax rate for FY26 is $13.21. The Southwind's property tax rate for FY26 is $12.33. So we are significantly lower than the state average. And I think that's very, very important to know, okay? Now let's go back to these silos of money. So that first silo, the general fund, okay? We can pay for staff salaries and benefits, curriculum, programs, textbooks, supplies. The general fund, 85% of the general fund goes towards salaries, okay? Now, I've heard this time and time again that people are concerned, well, if you're going to go out for a bond referendum, Mr. Ryan, now you're not going to be able to afford to pay your teachers. So how's that going to work? The general fund doesn't get touched. None of the money that goes towards this project comes out of the general fund. Well, that silo does not get touched. Now, if you look at that number in the bottom, $10.39. So out of our overall $12.33 per $1,000 assessed valuation, that $12.33 tax rate, $10.39 is coming out of the general fund. Okay? Next silo is our physical plant and equipment levy. All right? That's for the expenses for your building and grounds. Repairs, equipment, buses, vehicles, technology, computers. Okay? Physical plant equipment levy. That's what it can be spent on. 60 cents. 60 cents out of that $12.33 for the physical plant equipment levy. The next silo is your management fund. So property and casualty insurance, workers' comp, early retirement, government risk pools. A few years ago, we discovered that we could actually pay for our natural gas out of our management fund instead of our general fund, which saved our general fund about $60,000 a year, which was really huge. That's the kind of stuff we have to be very creative with. Okay? So, $1.34 for the management fund out of that 1233 tax rate. Debt service, 0 right now. The debt service, that's where that 270 would go. If the bond referendum passes, then we'll have debt service. That's where you'll add that 270. That would bump your overall tax rate up to 1503. Okay? Pearl, we don't have it's a public education and recreation levy, we don't utilize that. 0. Save, we get money, that's sales tax, that's not property tax. That 1233 is property tax. So that's why I have 0 for that sales tax or save. Alright? Student activities fund, that's supported by your athletic clubs, co-curricular activities, gate admission. We don't get any state aid for our student activity funds. None. Okay? That's why it's no tax. And then your food nutrition. So that supports your your lunch and breakfast programs. Okay? And there's some federal funds and then parent fees, like lunch tickets. Right? That's how that is paid for. So there's no tax. So I think this is a really good visual to show you the different silos, pots, different areas of the money, of the funds, and what we can spend it for, and how it contributes to that overall tax rate of 1233.
And you can't spend out of one silo to another silo. You have to stay within that lane for what it's designated to spend on.
So really, by acting now, we can address the needs and allow our high school to better serve future generations of students. I think you all know that our future is our students and our education. And we need to create modern classroom spaces to appeal to families who want their children to be competitive in a changing economy. We are, like it or not, in competition all the time with our neighbors, all the time. And when it boils right down to it, people might not like it, but I'm just telling you the facts. It's curb appeal. I don't have parents calling me and asking me about curriculum or what textbooks we use. They want to know about our facilities and what we can offer them. So this is how we stay competitive, and we have to stay competitive. So we believe the proposed bond referendum represents a sensible, cost-effective solution to our pressing needs. We appreciate how our community has come together to discuss the important issues and help the district board find the possible solution. Families considering relocating often look first at the quality of schools, renovated facilities, enhance our competitiveness. I'm at this point going to hand it over to Jared Hokup. I want to make sure I got that right. He is with Piper Sandler, and Piper Sandler is our financial consultant. He's going to go over that tax impact sheet with you. It's on your handout. I can't remember which. It looks like this. Okay? Here, Garrett, it's all yours. Thank you.
Yeah, as Mr. Rank said, Garrett Hokup with Piper Sandler. So work with the district and go across the state, especially this time of year, to many districts. I think there's this year 43 schools in Iowa that have referendums similar to this on the ballot. So going all across the state, having these types of community forums and trying to make sense of the property tax impact and how it works. So I thought I'd start with, in the packet, there's a worksheet that looks like this. I won't spend a ton of time here, but this is essentially just showing maybe the boring math of what would the bond debt schedule actually look like. So as Mr. Rank said, it would be a $2.70 debt service levy rate. This would be encompassing 21 budget years. When you issue GO bonds in the state of Iowa, it has a maximum length of 20 years. But as a construction project unfolds, you're likely not going to complete that project within 1 year. Typically that will encompass over 12, 18 months. So you have the ability to issue a 20-year bond in 2026 and in 2027, which is what's shown here. So again, this is just kind of showing the intricate math of how that works, but again, it's going to be a $2.70 debt service levy rate. The other side is the worksheet that you see up here, and this worksheet is also in your packet. Apologize, really small numbers, so hopefully you can read them. But try and make sense of the property tax system in Iowa and what will the impact be for you as a taxpayer in the district. So you've got the three different classes of property there: residential, commercial, and ag. So we'll start with residential and try and make sense of this. So you can see, if we just start with the top, let's assume you have a home that's assessed at 100,000. So each spring in, March, April, you'll get your tax assessment from your county assessor with your new assessment. Now that's your assessed value, which is what you see here, the 100,000. Then there's a rollback rate. Now in this current year, you can see that's 47.43%. Now each year, the state adjusts that. So across the entire state, the total assessed valuation can only go up 3%. So they adjust that rollback rate each year to make sure that the state as a whole only goes up that 3%. So that rollback rate will change each year, but in this current year, it's that 47.43%. So that's, you take the assessed value times that rollback rate, but then there's also different credits. So the most common one would be the homestead credit, which is $4,850. There's other credits, military credits. If you're 65 or older, there's a senior credit. You can get an additional $6,500. So there's other credits, but that then would give you the net taxable value, which if you look at for the 100,000 at the top, 42,582. So that would be what you would take times the $2.70. So you can see there, if you go on the far right columns, per year, that would be around $114 if you owned a home assessed at $100,000, or per month, $9.58. So again, that's a $100,000 home. You can look down, there's a handful of different examples there. If you have your exact assessed value of your home, you could run it through the same formula and figure out the math there. So that's residential. Commercial, fairly similar, little bit of nuance. So there's a little bit of a tax incentive for smaller businesses. If you have a commercial business assessed at $150,000 or less, it's the same rollback rate as residential. So that same 47.43%. Any valuation above $150,000 is taking times a rollback rate of 90%. So the thought process there is give a tax break to smaller businesses, mom and pop shops, things like that. Otherwise, same exact calculation, other than you don't get the homestead credits and things like that. So that's commercial, and then ag is maybe the most nuanced and maybe, I don't know, not so easy to understand. That for those of you that own ag property, you probably know how this works. If you're like me, you don't own ag property in the state, it's maybe not so easy to understand. So what you can see is down towards the bottom, you see where there's kind of some green text, and then in the middle, it's showing the average assessed value of an acre of land in the county here. And you can see that there is $1,433 per acre. Now again, this is average. Now if you own ag land in the district, you're probably thinking, Garrett, you're crazy. There's no chance I'm selling my ag land for $1,400 an acre. You would likely be correct. If you look at the very bottom, where there's the orange text, you can see the average market value. Again, this is still an average, but it's showing the average market value in the county at $11,208. So you can see there's a pretty big discrepancy that if you do the tax impact based on the market value, you're going to come up with a very different value. But similar to commercial and residential, there's also a rollback rate for ag property. Now it is similar, the rate is different, but it's similar that the state adjusts that each year, that for that class of property, similar to residential, it can only go up 3% across the state. So again, they adjust that rollback rate, but you can see in this current year, 73.85% is the rollback rate for ag property. So again, if you take that through the formula, you come up with the taxable value per acre of $1,058, and again, this is an average, so if you own ag land, you might be slightly above or slightly below that. Take that times the $2.70, and per acre, you would pay around $2.86 per year per acre. Again, averages, but that's how that works. And then you can see there's some different tables and calculations at the bottom to show what if you calculated it based on the market value per acre. Usually the taxable value is about 10% of what the market value is. again, that changes based on the part of the state you're in, but on average, it's pretty close to that. So those are how the calculations work. In the interest of time, I'll probably wrap it up with that. If there's questions specifically that you have about the property you own or just how it works, I'm certainly happy to talk about it. I think probably the most common question we a lot of times get is this fair? And I think depending on who you ask, it's kind of in the eye of the beholder. Is it fair? Probably not. I think there's always winners and losers. But in terms of just how it works with the current legislation, this is how property taxes are calculated. Clear as mud, I'm sure. We'll see, maybe they'll clean it up and make it a little bit simpler to understand, but currently this is how it works. So if there's questions specifically at the end, I'm happy to answer those, or questions about the bond itself, how it works, interest rates, certainly happy to answer those, but I'll pass it back over to Superintendent Ike. Thanks.
Okay, so what we're gonna do now is talk a little bit about the floor plan. I'm gonna let Mr. Williams and Mr. Nick Hildebrand next. Nick Hildebrand is with Emergent Architecture, putting you on the spot here, pal.
Yeah.
But if you wanna talk a little bit about the floor plan.
You bet.
And if you get, they got posters too, where we have this.
All right, good evening. Welcome to the most interesting part of the presentation. No, I think it's interesting because it's what I do for a living, but excited to be here, working with Chris up in his other school district, and just have to say, terrific leader, excited to be a part of this project, and pretty amazed with what we came up with for a solution here, actually. You know the site, you know that your school is on the city block there. Very, very challenging. What can we end up doing with that? So this is essentially an aerial view of the floor plan up here. So north is up, over to the left here, this is what I would call the lower level floor plan, and then over here, this is the upper level floor plan. So currently, right now, your administrative office is located right here. You've got a science room. This is kind of an entrance here. You've got an entrance located over here. Up above here is the gymnasium. And then over here, we've also got your entrance here. So what we're proposing to do is remove the existing school, the oldest part of the school, which is kind of chopped up in the way that you would have done it in the early 1900s and mid 1900s when that was built. And build a new facility that's 2 stories tall right here back in its place. And then we're gonna like, and I've done this in lots of school districts throughout the state, we're gonna kind of change how it works. So this area to the north here is gonna become the new main entrance. So we're gonna locate the new principal's office, front office right here. This is gonna create a nice large entrance where we've got 2 parking lots located over here. We've got some drop-off space here. This is gonna bring you down in. The kind of green areas here over to your left, this is a kitchen, and then this is gonna be the new cafeteria. So you're gonna kind of feed in. You'll have a secure entry where you have to check into the front office if you come to the school. You won't be able to kind of just get buzzed in any location, wherever you're at. Then this kitchen will get deliveries kind of over to the side here, and then this will act as the cafeteria. This gray area continues you straight down. This would be a corridor, and then this is a new competition gymnasium, and it's good sized. So we've got at least 1,000 seats located within that facility, but with the gymnasium comes other needs. So we've got 2 locker rooms located here. We've got bathrooms located right off of the cafeteria, a concession stand right off of the cafeteria. We've got some offices, a weight room located back here, and then we kind of have a back of house entrance into the gym so the players are able to kind of exit, come back, and use these facilities back here. And then of course, you're familiar with the school, so you have this kind of medium level, half level thing going on. So this level right here will be at the level of where that current entry is located over here. So we're gonna leave these existing stairs, use this existing elevator. We're moving obviously that front office, so this is gonna become teacher's lounge, work area. We've got some academic things going on here. The things in the red are getting updated, some different work to them. Since we're building a new weight room over here, which puts it by the new locker rooms and by the gymnasium, we are then taking over the existing weight room, taking these two science rooms and building them new, up-to-date science rooms within the existing old shop area. And then cleaning up kind of some of this entry and that stuff going on along there. We're gonna raise that floor up. That's gonna allow us to put plumbing and stuff right underneath there. Take advantage of kind of the existing situation. And then we're moving art and business over here, kind of create a career tech area that's located right on that side of the building. As I work my way up then, I would come either up these stairs, or if I'm coming this way, I could go up a set of stairs that's located here, and there's a back of house stairs here. So this then is the upper floor of the new building. So I've got vertical circulation right here. This is then aligned with the upper floor of this building. So I've got two classrooms up here, a corridor that connects me over to the classroom pod that is located here. So I've got 4 classrooms located there, 5 with an open classroom. The library will be located right here, collaboration space. And then this will be a new wrestling room located up on the 2nd floor. Also, across the hall from the wrestling room, we have the opportunity to put a walking track elevated space that looks down into that. Anybody been to Denver schools? So Denver's where I lived at that school. That has an elevated kind of walking track there. It's open to the public. You get a key fob and you're able to use that facility at certain times of the day. Sorry, I'm blocking your view over here this whole entire time. Then up on this upper level, we'll have the stairs then that will connect you to the other gymnasium, which will stay as part of the project, the auditorium, and then some of this academic space up here. This will stay wrestling room. We've got other locker rooms over here. We also then are reusing some of the existing locker rooms down here in the lower level for some academic space. So getting things located correctly in the facility, getting adjacencies done well, redoing a lot of things that need some help with the kitchen, cafeteria, getting a new competition gymnasium on the site, which allows for 2 gyms to kind of work at the same time with each other.
Thank you, thank
Yeah.
you. And we have the designs over there, and we'll put this back up after we do Q&A. So we're ready for Q&A. Does anybody have any questions they wrote down for us? Oh, you're gonna say them, okay. Okay, nobody wrote any down? Okay, we'll write them down and do Q&A then. So, you wanna go?
What is the projected student population for the next 5, 10, 20 years?
Yeah, so our enrollments went up the last 4 years. You know, I'm not gonna lie to you, everybody is seeing their enrollments go down. So I mean, I got here in 15, 16 was my first year, and our enrollment went down that year. The next year I took over as superintendent, and our certified count went down 35. Then it was a roller coaster. We go up 10, go down 5, go up, and now we've pretty much plateaued off. It's hard for me to project the future. It's not me not wanting to answer the question, because I really wish I could, because I would love to have a crystal ball to know exactly what our enrollment is, because our enrollment completely dictates what our budget is, right? So I don't know. I just know we've been steady the last few years. It used to be, I mean, obviously you can look at your kindergarten class, your preschool groups coming in, and your senior class going out, so we have an idea there. But I've also, in the last 10 to 12 years, families have become transient. And there's just so many more options now with the online schools. Homeschooling is a big thing. There's just a lot of options for students. So it's really hard for me to say, but I can tell you this. You know, we're 530 kids roughly by certified count. Plus we have another, I don't know, 180 kids that are at the Catholic school. So if you start looking at those total numbers, we're a very viable and strong district.
And another thing that's affected enrollment over the last 10 years for projections is open enrollment. So that has become very prevalent. across where students can choose to go to other districts and it's more open, so that's indeed also impacted. So it makes it harder for us to say what we think for sure the enrollment's gonna be. But we don't project it to decline. We see with the, maybe a couple years, but it'll dip back up because of the higher numbers coming into preschool and kindergarten, first grade.
That open enrollment piece is important too, because we lose a considerable amount of students who open enroll to the Cora. I'm just gonna tell you that straight out. And part of this, again, is when I talked earlier about recruiting and making sure we can keep kids, making sure that we have an attractive school, so people, when they move into our communities, because you all know it, it's cheaper to live in our community. It happens all the time. I have families that move in, their kids were at, let's just say, Cora, right? And they want to continue to have their kids there, but they live here. And I remember my first year when I was really, really green behind the ears as a superintendent, I thought, okay, well, whatever, we never had that financing. Big deal, whatever, it is what it is. Well, it is a big deal. And the reason it's a big deal is because Decora's gonna, if there's 10 kids, and it's $7,000 a kid, right? That's $70,000. And Decora's gonna send us a bill for $70,000 that year. But guess what? We don't get the funding until the following year. So that's $70,000 coming out of that general fund. So that's a big, big deal right there. And that's why we've got to be ultra competitive with our neighbors, all right? Because they're working, they're doing the same thing. They should. That's smart.
Other questions?
What's the current square footage of the school?
Okay,
It's-
so the current
I got
high
it.
school
Oh, you got it?
is, well, you got it. I'm pretty sure it's like around 70,000 square feet.
Yes, yeah, the current school, the proposed design is 93,600 square feet. The existing building is right around 70,000 square feet. Yep. The proposed, the failed bond issue was 63,000 square feet.
And we were going for significant less space because we were looking at using and partnering with the community college. So that currently is not an option for us. So
Well, I
we're
think,
looking at-
yeah, I think, not to interrupt, but I think it's important to note, so when we, in 21, we were gonna put that brand new facility out at NICC, that was gonna have one gym, but we were gonna utilize our existing gym and auditorium. So that's square footage that wasn't figured into the 63,000 square feet.
Correct. Other questions? Yes, sir.
What's the projected starting date and finishing date?
Well, we'd like to start in the spring of 27, and then we move in the fall of 28. Is that correct, Nick? It's gonna take a year of planning.
Where the students can go during that year?
Yep, so, jump in here if you think I'm wrong in this, but I'm thinking the spring of 27, or when we get out of school, they would start demolition on the old part of the building. We put up a temporary wall, and we feel like we could use the existing, for 1 year, we can use the existing, would be the west side of the school. But we're gonna have to get very, very creative. I mean, we'll be using the auditorium, the gym, we'll be using everything for different classroom space. When teachers have preps, we're gonna have to get really creative with scheduling and get classes in there.
And Mr. Williams, the principal, he's feeling pretty confident that that plan's gonna work, right?
We can make it work. Utilizing, like the teachers that start their day in Ashen, being able to utilize that they can share a classroom with somebody else. Being able to run that single lunch period right away as well. Utilizing the shop area that's kitty corner off the building if we need to for extra space. Just being as creative as we can to make that 1 year work.
It's 1 year paying for 30-year gain, right? So it's not gonna be easy, but, really doable. Other questions?
Will you have more classrooms when you're finished than you do now, or are you just renovating, keeping the same amount of classrooms?
It'll basically be the same amount of classrooms, essentially. I mean, but it's gonna be just better use of space. I mean, right now we have a For example, we have a study hall, a big area up on the second floor of the old building. When I got there in 15, our classes were bigger, and we had 70, 80 kids in a study hall. Now we have,
Sub 30.
yeah. So it's just space that isn't utilized. It's just not built for what we need.
And we're adding the collaborative space,
Mhm.
that's new
Yep.
space, so
Yep.
that's technically somewhat a classroom space, but. we
Well,
have
and
a-
I don't want you to think like, well, that doesn't make sense, we're getting all this extra square footage. Well, you gotta remember, a lot of that extra square footage is the common, like the cafeteria area, which is gonna be a commons area, and the competition gym, and the extra, the weight or the wrestling room. And I will argue with anybody that a gym is a classroom. Actually, it's the most used classroom in the school. It's used all the time. And maybe you're not, learning necessarily academics, core classes, but you're learning sportsmanship. You're learning work ethic. You're learning character. You're learning dedication, devotion. Those are important attributes. And our gyms are used all the time.
Other questions?
So if you're putting in this walking track, anybody will have access to that?
That's our intent.
What would the hours be that people would have access to?
And I don't have those details worked out yet, Steve, but that is our intent, correct?
Yes,
That's what we
and
want to
I
have
think
happen.
one of the things is that we have to be mindful when the class is in session, right? But we'll absolutely make sure that we have the walking track open to the public as well as the use of the gym and the other facilities that are available. Our goal is to have it to be a community center.
Taxpayers are paying for it, we want you to be able to utilize it.
So what is that walking track going to cost to put that in the system?
So a couple of quick things, the Denver one, it's, so you apply for a fob, and then there's hours, and you kind of have to look at the schedule. It's typically open, I think it's open very, very early in the morning. They also make the weight room available, like during certain hours, and so it's open from like 5 in the morning till, if there's morning practices, till the beginning part of school, so 7:45 or so. And then depending on practices afterwards, either it's open during practices or it's open after practices at the end of the school day. The cost of that track going around there, that's maybe, 800 square feet or something. It's fairly cost effective in this solution because you already have stairs we have to put in, you already have an elevator we have to put in, because a lot of school districts are like, well, throw a track up in there and, well, people can use it. Well, if you have to put all that infrastructure in, then it gets expensive, like millions of dollars. In this case, I would probably only use $200 a square foot for the size of that classroom, for the size of the square footage, because all of those other things are already being added into the project.
But we don't have to put an elevator in, we have an elevator.
Right.
Elevator,
Exactly.
stairs,
All that existing infrastructure is there.
If you're on the track, are you gonna have visual, like, there's a game going on in the gym? Or
It would be open to the gymnasium, that is correct. But then that's, like on nights where there's competitions, like in Denver, then it's not open to the public. That's kind of how it works, yeah. So you do have to get in tune with the school, which isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Other questions?
Were you gonna have like any ag or industrial tech classrooms, or is that still gonna be out at NICC?
Yeah, the industrial tech, that'll stay out at NICC.
The welding lab and construction.
Yeah, but this whole area, we're gonna be moving ag over into the weight room now. So it's gonna get significantly more space. Because she just doesn't have enough space in there.
Yeah.
God bless her, she's getting grants and stuff all the time. She doesn't outstanding jobs. We just need, and we're a very ag community, obviously, so that's an important program. And I'll be honest with you, that's near and dear to me, because I'm an old ag teacher FFA advisor, so, yeah.
So we'll be able to expand with all of the different robotics and all of the different machines that she has in the case and FFA there, so, yes. Other questions?
Yeah.
So when you-
Go ahead.
stay where it's at, but the music room is gonna get renovated. That wasn't on here, because on here, if you look, they'll show the blue spaces that are remodels, we just did, new one has it on it, this doesn't. So that, music room, band room, is gonna be remodeled.
And we're also gonna do a little bit of, updating in the current auditorium.
Auditorium, yeah. The auditorium, we spent a significant amount of money on it. It was probably right before I came. I'm guessing maybe 12 or 13, but it just needs a little bit of a facelift again. So talk to Council Kane and stuff. We've got a nice little auditorium, really.
And the music room, without getting updated, will be very nice as well.
We don't want to forget about our fine arts. Those are very important.
Yes,
So you had mentioned about the PEPAL money, so you're just using a percentage of the PEPAL money for this project?
Honestly, we're hoping maybe not to dip into our Pebble at all.
Not at all.
That's my hope, that's my intent, but we might have to. We have 2 million in cash reserves right now, but by the time we get to the point where we're doing the project, I'm hoping we'll have more saved.
Yeah, I guess that's my concern, is that if you're using that for your current,
Yep.
you know, that you're.
I know where you're going with that, Mike.
That
Yeah,
the
so
facilities, you know.
we factor in all of our reoccurring costs. So we know exactly what that number is, okay? Then we factor in, what if we have to replace a bus? What if a boiler goes down? We have to fix a roof, you know, in our existing, and then we add on a percentage to make sure we have plenty of money that we can still function even while we're going through the project and we have that extra debt.
and we have done the majority of the major expenses in Ashen, from the roof to the, heating and cooling system, so that's all been updated, so we would hopefully not having to see that, but we have a technology amount that we spend each year that will put to be saved aside, so we know and have a really good estimate every summer of how much we're spending on projects and expenses, so barring no storms, because that was unexpected, that cost us a little bit extra money that we weren't expecting. But I think that we have a really good understanding of our budget because of Chris Smith. I tell you what, she's just been amazing. And the projections and forecasting and tracking of our expenses, we're pretty on target on what we know, what we'll be able to save. And we say 2 million, but honestly, we probably are gonna have more than 2 million saved by the time we're ready to start doing that. And that just means less money that we're gonna be borrowing.
So with our budget, because there's so many variables, we constantly have to be looking at it all the time. And there's numbers that we don't get until after now, there are literally numbers that we don't get, and we have to set our budget for that. So it just is what it is, but I think we do a pretty good job of our due diligence as far as always keeping track of that and making sure that we know, and we're trying to expect the unexpected, let's put it that way.
Mr. Henson?
Yeah, the one thing I thought about with the save part, Mike, is, you know, you're kind of leveraging future revenue with that. It's sort of like maybe an operating note, if you will. You take the bond part of it, that's X, but, you know, if you figure, it's a little hedge against inflation too. If you have 3% cost of goods and service every year increase over 20 years, you just about double that, so that percentage of that will continue to increase, so that, it does diversify the repayment part of it, I think. So.
Other questions? Yes, sir.
Energy cost, how would this bring the energy cost down from what we're using presently? Or replacing a boiler, the steam boiler?
Yeah, when he was talking about utility and some of the things, you know, the current infrastructure and boiler is located in the existing building. These two gray boxes right here and that space would be used for a new boiler system, which would be for the school as a whole. As far as energy costs, some of the challenge there, this building, the way that we currently have it planned, you can kind of look at there, we're looking at tilt-up precast panels, which is very energy efficient building. And the challenge that we have with energy costs is all of this is gonna be well ventilated and cooled and climate
climate controlled, and a lot of it will be most of the year. And so there probably won't be like any type of savings in energy costs. It'll probably stay similar because the insulation value of your existing building is very, very poor. But there's not air conditioning throughout that school, and so it's gonna be a much, much better climate. Plus, we have LED lights, those types of things that will reduce like how much each fixture and everything uses. But overall energy usage probably would stay about the same as it is now, even with the additional square footage added to the school.
Will the rooms will not be air conditioned?
Oh, yes, they
Yeah,
will.
the
The
rooms
new-
all will be air conditioned.
The whole
yeah.
school or
The whole
just the
school.
new?
Throughout all of the part of the new school, yes, throughout the school.
How about the old?
Yes, so that'll be part of what we have to do, is when, if the bond referendum passes, and somebody asked me about the timeline, we're gonna need until the spring of '27, because we're gonna have to put the existing building on its own HVAC. I guess the gym has its own now, but the rest of that's gonna have to be, but we've got a plan for that.
And the reason for the planning is that you're seeing a pretty rough schematic. So then we need to get into it, we'll have more meetings to talk about how this all evolves. So there'll be more input from the community and from students and from
Stakeholders.
faculty and stakeholders for the facility, so. Other questions, we have 5 more minutes, stay the clock, so. And then you can stay as long as you want to continue asking individualized questions, but does anybody have any other questions they want to share with the rest of the folks here?
How would a one-period lunch help the school instead of the 3 we now have?
Oh, huge in scheduling.
Yeah, so scheduling alone would be dramatic, right? Just because we can do one lunch period, that's gonna free up time for students to take other college courses or different course, classes that they wanna take.
I was adding it up. We feed about 215 or 220 people lunch every day in a room that's, I don't know, very small. You have 25 minutes to eat lunch, that isn't bad, but if you're the last one, if you're 69 in line, time you get your lunch and sit down, you have about 17 minutes to eat.
And kids are hungry, let's be honest, one of the most important parts of school is having a warm lunch for our students, and that's, you think better having the food, and some of the kids are getting that late lunch, so you're going pretty much half the day without lunch, and this is a big game changer for us in scheduling. And I wanna brag about this, you guys, we have 84% of our students continuing on in higher education, either a 1-year, a 2-year, or a 4-year college after graduation. I'm gonna tell you, surrounding us, we're the highest percentage and have been since I've been on the board, and that they were tracking that. And I've been on the board almost way too long, 19 years plus, something like that. But anyway, it is absolutely because of our great faculty. We do a really good job of retaining our faculty, paying our faculty, and growing our faculty. We do a really good job of partnering with the Northeast Iowa Community College to make sure we have concurrent enrollment and other opportunity ag and health programming that they have on campus. And so students are gonna continue to go over there, and we're gonna continue that strong partnership. So this solution continues to elevate us to that next level. We've got great academics. The facility makes a difference. As a traveling parent, I was always in awe every school that we would go to other schools. And this is something that curbside, we know that we're living in bedroom communities in some sorts because we don't have all the industry that some of the communities do, but we absolutely got a great school. And that's what we want to continue to grow, because that's going to grow economy, that's going to have families wanting to keep their kids with us within our school district, and also come here. It's an attraction for Austin, Pasadena, Spillville, and Calmer, for families wanting to move here because of our school district and of the great academics.
And the last question, the financial man. If this fails, in 5 years, we put it before the voters, the price will go down, am I right? It will not be a $13 million bond to build the same thing. Right? Why do we laugh? The price will go down?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
Price will continue to go up. Price will continue to go up, and, you know, we still have to, no matter what, we're gonna have to address the heating and cooling situation in our current facility, and that is not inexpensive. So, we're hoping we don't have to cross that bridge, we're hoping that the voters agree with what we're looking at doing for this bond. We hope that you see that we've really done a good job of diversifying how we're funding it, to make sure it's not just all relying on the taxpayers of the South Winneshiek district. So, we'll stay here to continue to answer questions. Thank you, and thank you for coming. So, we're here, so come and ask us whatever you want. Thank you again.